What is happiness? We sure do spend a lot of time chasing this thing. We sure do justify a lot based on this idea, but I mean, what actually is it? A thing or an idea? What does it mean? Is it different for everyone? Can you hold happiness? What does it feel like, look like? And if we've all been looking for it, if we've always been looking for it, why haven't we found it yet? Does happiness exist? This is the question that Takopi's original sin raises, beginning with a friendlien from planet Happy, eventually named Takopi, who brings happy gadgets to Earth to try and spread joy. A camera that can time travel to the picture it stores, a pair of wings to be able to fly, a palette that can change your form into something else, and anything else the plot demands to move forward. Takopi's naive idea is essentially that happiness can be produced, that someone who's sad, like abandoned and bullied 4th grader Shizuka, just needs to use them and suddenly she'll be happy, because the gadgets literally make happiness. Of course, this isn't how it works, with Shizuka immediately rejecting the use of every single one, no matter what it does. It's simple. For a victim of neglect and bullying, flight doesn't really do much. What's she going to do? Fly away to somewhere else where she still doesn't know anyone or have any help? As she says time and time again,
look, even if I could fly, nothing's ever gonna change for me.
Happiness isn't a thing that can be bought or sold, manufactured by a product, because, well, it simply isn't physical. Rather, happiness is a state. You don't make happiness, you make someone happy. So we have to consider the individual. What is the state of happiness? Well, for Shizuka, it's being around her dog Chappie. Her mom, due to an adult profession, is always at work when Shizuka is off school, and her dad left long ago, so Chappie is the only thing at home for her. In a world where no adults care, her perpetual feeling is one of worthlessness. I mean, Marina, her tormentor, is not subtle about the whole thing, and any adult could see it and do, but simply choose not to deal with it. Everyone makes it clear they actively don't care about Shizuka. But Chappie, no matter the time, the place, anything, he's always there and happy to see specifically her, the most important person in the world to him. That one bright spot of feeling special, essentially, having someone who obviously cares about you and says you are important. So maybe the state of happiness is being valued as an individual. However, Marina shows otherwise. Despite being the bully at school, she's the bullied at home, victim to a drunk, mostly absent father who spends his time after work with Shizuka's mother, and a mother who, unable to handle this fact, enacts violence on Marina instead. A woman who once had a happy family of her own, now finding it spiraling out of control, where no matter how much she tries to be a good wife, like taking housekeeping classes, it leads to nothing better from her husband. And so she clings on to what's left to control the family, that being Marina. Maybe her husband can leave, but one half of the other members of that happy family will be right here, and maybe that one half can become important enough to feel like the entire thing. As we see in the future, her entire mental state depends on how happy family Marina can lead her to be. She's craving those lost days when things were good. This is why she insists Marina has to be the perfect young lady, because Marina has to bring a whole family's worth of standard joy. What this is getting at is that Marina is extremely important to her mother, someone who wants her to have a nice, successful husband, and raise a happy family, and everything we think of as a good and normal life. But that very motivation leads to so much worse. I'm sure Marina would rather be unimportant considering all of this, so importance can't be happiness. Shizuka and Marina would rather be like Naoki, the smartest kid in their class. Everyone crowds around him to laud his almost perfect grades, and he's the son of a successful clinic, so he's quite well taken care of too. For many people, his life would be quite an upgrade. But there's a step above him. His older brother, Junya, the best student in the country without even studying, spending his time with his girlfriend and at a part-time job instead. Effortlessly, he bests his younger brother. While Naoki would be perfect for any other family, for this one of doctors who could kill a patient if they slip up, only literal perfection is good enough for the baseline. And so as someone who has to work hard for good grades, he's essentially ignored. As he says,
"Our entire family's been pinning their hopes and dreams on his future."
But he says this with jealousy almost, with an assumed, and he's wasting it on the end with that tone, because that pressure is one to gain a reward, rather than avoid a punishment like Marina. For both, it's a constant stress, but one can see it as gain, while for the other, it's maintenance at best. And that's the difference. Putting in so many hours studying that he has no friends, Naoki craves the pressure of the entire family because then he would receive the love his mother withholds, expressed in the treats he never gets because his grades aren't literally perfect. They're always presented right before him and then thrown away instead, as if to say, it's right there, it's ready, you simply aren't good enough to take it. That's another distinction. It places everything on him, contrasted against a mother this community loves and relies on. Where Marina can blame Shizuka, something we'll cover later, Naoki's mother leaves only himself to blame. Through these twists, an all-consuming pressure of an entire family takes a very different form of unhappiness, one that would be happiness to other people. But things change for Naoki when he finally does get that reward. Distracted by events we'll cover later, he fails a test and, coming home with it to show his mother, finally gets that stack of pancakes instead. Because his mother is giving up on him, saying directly that he can stop trying, she doesn't care to put in the effort anymore. It's quite cruel, but the interesting part is how it almost seemed kind for a second, as if she was about to apologize for all that pressure and say he was good enough as he is, only to have it rug pulled and leave him feeling worse than ever before. Despite vastly different situations, he is feeling abandoned like Shizuka. Something which would actually feel good for Marina because it would mean no more maintenance, but is terrible for him because it takes away the only way to gain. This is probably why he can get close to Shizuka about all of this, or after it all, because they understand two sides of the same feeling. Chappie makes Shizuka happy because she has nothing else. He is the entire world to her. And Shizuka makes Naoki happy because he believes he has nothing else. She is the entire world to him, even though he has a life the other two would be extremely envious of. But all that stuff they're envious of is to him just the baseline of life. So where does this leave happiness? Because what makes them happy can be the same, but from entirely different situations and with different avenues. Because Shizuka has so little, many things could make her happy. But because Naoki has so much, only one thing can make him so, leaving him feeling somehow just as limited. I guess it's a matter of perspective. It certainly is, because Junya adds even more to the conversation. He has exactly what Naoki wants, the praise and attention of the entire family, and yet he actively discards it, leaving the embrace of his mother at home and risking his grades to work a part-time job instead, even though they're wealthy and would buy him whatever he wanted. He could just relax and have it all. From Naoki's perspective, having to work all day and night, Junya is being nonsensical to choose to work. But Junya is doing this to buy matching rings for him and his girlfriend, the person he says he couldn't do anything without. From his view, she's how he's able to be so good, and he wants to repay that. Sure, he could have the family buy a couple of rings, but what would that really mean? They'd be a dime a dozen because of how they were acquired, replaceable in almost an instant, disposable. But if he works a part-time job to make his own money, well, there's a limitation that makes them important. They become how much effort he had to put into getting them, and how difficult it would be to replace them. She's worth the world to him, and so to express that, he gives up a part of his own world, his time to say so. To him, that is happiness. But that can only be born from the perspective of having everything, because having everything means something to give up. For Naoki, giving up the traits doesn't mean anything because he doesn't have them to begin with. To get them must come before anything else, and so that is happiness to him. If one has limitation, they want to break it, and if they don't have it, they covet it. After all, what would happen if Naoki did overtake his brother to be the family heir? Everything would swap to him, and he would learn the same lesson as Junya. The pancakes aren't actually good. Sure, they look that way from the outside because they're so built up as a reward. They have all that weight behind them, just like the rings. But in actuality, their mother makes them in batches and freezes them in her limited time, so they don't actually taste good. Junior only ever ate them exactly because his mother made them unlimited time, and so he wants to respect that gesture like the one he's doing, kind of. The only alluring part of them is the idea of them, is getting them because of what it says about you to have done so, not actually having them once you do. The same thing happens to Naoki, as when his mother gives up and just lets him have them. They go from being so bright and alluring to this. Dull, dark, just awful looking. Because it's not a what, but a why. We care just as much about how the thing was gained as we do actually having it. Gaining the reward can be because you finally rose to the occasion, or because the occasion has fallen to you, and despite the same result, the feelings are entirely opposed. But this is itself a matter of perspective still. Imagine Shizuka faced with a stack of pancakes and told it's because she was given up on. She'd probably still eat them because just having a meal made for her is proof against being given up on as she knows it. The what and the why are two layers, where why can only be important once what is rather certain. The starving man doesn't care why he has food, he just cares that he does. This whole question is getting rather complicated. We have 3 children who could be happy when swapped into each other's situations, but who fail to be happy in their own, who have similar concepts leading to wildly different results, and opposed concepts converging into the same result. It's like there's no objective way to judge happiness, and well, that's the problem. But a problem beyond happiness. We're having a tough time nailing it down because it's difficult to nail anything down. Because nothing seems to have a true value, but can only be evaluated in context, can only be seen from limited perspectives. Family importance is not good or bad, it just is. A stack of pancakes is not intoxicating or revolting, it just is. There are no absolutes. The anime takes this to the extreme. Is there anything that is always good or always bad? This is seen in what makes Shizuka truly happy: killing Marina. The latter was growing more intense in her bullying ever since Takopi came along and helped Shizuka avoid the smaller aspect of it, her backpack being thrown away or other things messed with, a fact which itself is part of the point. By helping Shizuka, Takopi was frustrating Marina, leading to what she viewed as genuine efforts being wasted, and in a way that made indirect bullying ineffective. So she goes to direct bullying instead, meeting Shizuka to physically abuse her. By not addressing the root issue, but just fixing the consequences, all Takopi did was change the expression. His efforts were genuine, but because of a complicated and messy world, helping someone now became accidentally hurting them later. Most notably is when Marina takes Shizuka away from school for once, into the woods where no one can see them, and becomes more intense than ever. Maybe to a fatal point even. Seeing this, Takopi feels a need to step in and defend Shizuka, knowing from what's taking her place during that abuse how terrible this feels. And so he jumps in with the camera and attacks Marina, accidentally killing her since he's unaware of how much humans can take. A child has been murdered, the kind of scene that makes physically sick the workers who eventually find her, and so it must make Shizuka just as sick. And Naoki, who finds the body and comes in to help her hide it, just the same, right? There must be no way they can live with this. What follows is the best time of their lives, with Shizuka, Naoki, and Takopi taking Marina's form, sharing an idyllic childhood together, planning how to hide their crimes and make it to Tokyo to find Chappie, who they believe was sent there after biting Marina to stay with her father. Now, it does impact Naoki a bit more. Thinking through this all and the guilt is what leads to him failing that test, but that is part of the point. From his perspective, Marina was bad, but he didn't physically feel the pain she inflicted. He didn't know the full extent. She was doing something he knew was bad, but not ruining his life, and so he still finds this wrong. It was all in the realm of ideas. The idea of violence didn't make right the actual murder he witnessed. But Shizuka convinces him otherwise in ways we'll cover, And she's actively happy because she did feel all of that. Because with Marina gone, she can finally start to heal and live a normal life. From her perspective, it was only returning a fraction of what was given. She's hardly even balancing the scales. And can a child even really comprehend what murder means? Can a child who's never once been given love understand love being lost or people being sad about them being gone? The point is that even death is not absolute, that even the murder of a child has become a gray issue. There was no intent to kill, rather an intent to save, so is it wrong? We could say that all violence is bad, but doesn't that damn Marina too? Even going based on the consequences, it made 3 lives much better and ended one full of pain and creating more pain. But what is the extent of the consequences and intent in this situation? It reaches further than we've said. Consequence-wise, Marina's father probably won't care either way after a week or so. She was more or less a tactic to hurt his wife at this point. But her mother, well, we've stated why family was everything to her already, so what reaction does she have? What was her intent that influenced Marina? Takopi, as Marina, experiences all of this. Marina's mother has a breakdown, seeing the obvious changes in her daughter and, after hitting her, begging for the real Marina to be returned, apologizing for all the pain and saying she's been a terrible mother who just wants to see her daughter again. She is a terrible mother, but that doesn't mean she's nonsensical. She never stopped loving her daughter, she just started having less justification to act with love, less of a pure life where love was everything. As her husband started to become abusive, as she lost control and found no help anywhere, love became absent from her life and everything else flooded in to distract it. She started having violence put upon her and grew accustomed to it. In this situation, can she decouple violence and love anymore? Because doing so means accepting forever that her husband doesn't love her anymore because of the violence. It means accepting forever that she may not love her own daughter anymore. It means accepting that what was once defining her entire life is just gone. But if love and violence can coexist, then there's a chance to reclaim that thing which made her life worthwhile. There's a way to not just feel like a punching bag. Trapped in her situation as the housewife often is, her only control was to rationalize terrible things. Love and violence need to be siblings for her to not lose everything. And so that's what they become. Love was never absent, it just lost its purity, its isolation. And the same is true for Marina. Her mother is awful to her right now, but she still remembers all those times where she wasn't and clings to them, wishing for her happy family to come back. She still loves her mother, and so she learns from her mother, using language about Shizuka that was clearly taken from the adult situation, and using the physical force that her family taught her over and over was normal. And she can't believe it's not normal, because then she can't ever have that happy family back. Can a child, one who relies on their parents for everything needed in life, truly believe their parents are doing something out of malice? How can you doubt that which gifts you life itself? It would mean believing everything you know to be backwards and wrong and introducing a constant threat. She hates Shizuka rather than the actual source of her problems because that keeps the idea of her family alive. She's doing what everyone is, believing themselves to be the normal one and trying to maintain it. Within reason, almost no one is walking around believing they're the villain. They're doing what their conditions have led them to do and think is right, not excusing but explaining their behavior. As a concept existing within subjective minds, even normal is relative, like happiness not physical. And so violence and love can coexist. Their thresholds can be anywhere, and so there's no way to define these things on the whole since we lack a reference. And when we really get into it, it's not just happiness or right and wrong, it's everything. What does any of it really mean? Everything begins to feel like an illusion, changing its entire content based on nothing more than mental tuning to see a vase, or a kiss, a rabbit, or a duck. If the angle of view can shift everything, what was ever true? This happens to Takopi, who's actually been to Earth once before. Originally, he landed in the future, finding an older Marina instead of Shizuka. The former is dating Naoki because of Takopi's intervention, literally dragging her into living life, and so it's finally looking up. With her being able to bring home a well-off boyfriend, her mother feels a happy family coming back and actually becomes almost overly welcoming and sweet for a moment. Maybe things won't be so bad. Maybe Takopi actually did it. But then Shizuka, who Naoki has always loved, transfers back. Almost immediately, he leaves Marina for her old subject of torment, and despite spilling everything about how he'd just been dating her, Shizuka embraces him with a devious smile. Knowing how much this will hurt Marina almost seems sweet to her. Does she even like Naoki, or does she just like hurting her rival? Whatever the case, the latter happens, with Marina's mother breaking down when she hears the news, returning her right back to her old ways and leading to a conflict which kills them both. In either timeline, Shizuka is actually much like Marina. She's learned unfortunate behavior from her mother, being very manipulative with Naoki based on the idea of romance in order to get his assistance in covering up her crime. I mean, she takes the nerd of the class with no friends, tells him he's the only one who can help her with soft eyes to get him on side, and when he resists, turns it up by saying she knows he can do it and getting even closer, and when he resists again, going further to a kiss and an embrace, manipulating him even into taking the evidence to the police and falsely confessing to save her. Luckily, his brother stops him from taking the blame, it seems. But for those few weeks, Shizuka was giving Naoki the best time of his life so far, but in part it's just to manipulate him so she can have her own nice little life. So is that wrong? Is it immoral to make someone happy to make yourself happy? And is it even knowingly manipulative on her end? Again, learning this from her mother's work, it would just be normal. That's how a woman treats a man as far as she's ever seen. Plus, she didn't search through his whole life and know she'd look like his mother and that he has issues with praise and being special, so it's not premeditated or anything. But she did seem to avoid him before and only gives into his tension when she needs something, so there's clear use. But it does make him happy, but it does land him in trouble with the cops, but does she even know that's bad? Because she isn't trying to stay out of trouble for herself, but for Chappie. She has to make it to Tokyo and save him like they've been planning. He is her whole world. Really, trouble with the police would be good for her. Even in juvie, she'd have some sort of case manager to see how messed up her life has been and finally get the help she needs. She'd get more attention and care than ever before, and what would a criminal record mean to someone with poor grades and no future already? From her perspective, trouble with the law actually isn't that big of a deal, so while Naoki is being asked to do a lot, she isn't asking him to do a lot. The question's different on each side. She doesn't understand what her words mean to him. How could someone with no life see the pain of giving up life? And when she finally does make it to Tokyo, finds her father not having Chappie and having 2 other kids, she kills them to check their stomachs for him, because it means nothing to her, life, and preserving it, because no one has ever done that for her, being beaten and abandoned every single day. And once again, no one is believing themselves to be the evil one, but rather the only sane one. This is why Takopi judges them differently based on which one he encounters first, because he has more of that story and chooses that side based on limited information. When with Marina, it's Shizuka who dies, but with Shizuka, it's Marina who should. It's why Marina's mother's confession shakes him so much. Hearing that and looking around at their house and seeing the happy family that once was, literally living moments from both girls' lives and seeing all their conditions, he becomes unable to be happy with his choice anymore, with killing one to save the other, because how could he be? There's so many factors here, so much gray that it's impossible to pick a side. It's impossible for one person to judge or address the situation in any right way. And this is the real issue, that everything is subjective and dependent, and our unique perspectives make this inherent to the world. To be able to experience a self at all demands being able to experience everything subjectively, because you need contrast for distinction, you need conflict for opinion. The second 2 people exist, anything can be everything, or else they never would have been. So we don't have love, we have love to us. We don't have violence, we have violence to us. We have happiness to us. Things only remain pure capital O objective in innocence, in the lack of experience when everyone is the same to experience it the same. Confident judgment only remains possible without information. The more one knows, the less they know, as one question turns into 2, 4, 64, and so on forever. This is Takopi's original sin: knowledge. We see Planet Happy in the Marina timeline, where he walks in on her having killed her mother and saying she should have just killed Shizuka all those years ago. Not understanding the severity yet, Takopi hops in his spaceship to go back home and use their big clock to turn back time because that would let him kill Shizuka and make her happy. Point is, in this timeline, he's still innocent and childish. His confidence in the decision is because of ignorance, as it must be. And Planet Happy is an ignorant world in its innocence. Everything is pastel and kind to a sickening degree, with the only one with power and knowledge being their mother, a faceless mass above them all, as if one creature has taken all the growth. And I think that's true. To keep them happy, the mother has kept them from growing. A small slap is violence never before seen because there is no conflict here, only the joy of unaware children, where a simple gadget and its novelty really can breed joy. That's the only time that happiness can be a product after all, if the same exact thing makes everyone happy. It's why she doesn't grant his request, but rather goes to reset his memories instead, because he's close to a serious situation, to real understanding, and so he must be reset to the happy state of an infant, because that's how you have a happy planet. You fill it with infants, with people who can't grow up and so can't conflict over developed selves. But Takopi, in seeing Marina as important enough to slap his mother and use the clock anyway, possibly learning from Earth's methods of importance, commits the sin of choosing something for himself, growing up and developing the self which is required to find something subjectively important. He's cast out of the garden because he's tainted forever as one question always multiplies, condemned to struggle in personal complexity rather than sit in collective stupor, never knowing for certain what is happy or sad. He makes it back to Earth, but with no way to return, and with only faint hints of memory waiting to be unlocked, meeting Shizuka instead. And when she begins to enact violence on him, those memories return. Suddenly, everything is too complicated to solve. And this means that what Takopi was doing in trying to fix everything in an instant was the worst thing he could do. Trying to fix things simply only leads to the simplification of the issue, which means horrible justifications. Take Marina as the example. She's always attacking Shizuka because she believes it will fix her life, saying that her father leaving is the girl's fault because Shizuka's mother needs money for her child, right? And Marina's father gives her that money, so if that money wasn't needed anymore, he wouldn't give it and they'd just be home and happy. Quite directly, she says,
"It's your fault they're like this! Your fault, your fault, your fault!"
Because she believes this will fix things. Or rather, she wants to believe it can. The idea it can be fixed is what makes her cruel because it stops her from seeing the truth and justifies pretty much anything. I mean, if it's all Shizuka's fault, then not only will getting rid of her fix it, but it's also justified because so much evil is being brought by her, right? This simplification that a situation as complicated as this can be fixed with one change lumps years and people's worth of conditions, the complicated motivations of a fractured family and affair and everything onto one person, making her just about as bad as someone can be. It's intoxicating to blame one person like this because of that, because it makes even beatings into righteousness, because it promises salvation for being so just. It's also because no one wants to be out of control, and so the fix has to be something they can impact. And what can a child impact but another child? Even though Shizuka has very little to do with this situation, Marina has to blame her to ignore the reality that her happy family is already gone. She has to blame her to maintain an idea of control. Saying things can be fixed easily like Takopi always did is terrible because this is what it leads to. This is why Takopi is so annoying to many people, because he's always trying to fix things, and trying to fix things is accidentally trivializing them, failing to grasp human complexity. While speaking with Naoki after he goes to the police, meaning their trio's happy times are all over, Takopi questions,
Is it my fault? Were you not having fun when we played, Pete?
It's not because he outright hates himself, but because hating himself is the way to simplify things enough to be fixed. If it's all your fault, then at least you can change to save it, right? Even though it hurts to believe you did something wrong, it hurts less than admitting things are over and being powerless to change it. It turns a complex issue into simple blame. He continues,
Shizuka's a bad girl and she hurt a lot of people. She also shared her bread with me, and we all had fun playing together. How could she be so good and also so bad?
He says this for the same reason, that he needs Shizuka to be either all good or all bad so that there can be some simple enough fix. But Naoki responds angrily,
Because that's how it is! People can be good and people can be bad at the same time.
because it's trivializing to sit here and listen to all of this. He just went through personal hell, pushing himself to commit a crime because of deep-rooted issues, because of families' worth of turmoil, and someone here is essentially saying none of it was real, that some dumb little pink squid did it all. Even if it was bad, it takes the agency away from everyone else, condemns them down into non-considerations. It tries to love them, but in doing so disrespects them. There is no simple answer, there is no closure, just eternal questioning. And that questioning only gets worse if you think it could have been solved. It just is, and you're left with that. To deny it is to deny everything we are. This is why Naoki can and has to kind of hate Takopi, finding him annoying and stupid, but still thanking him and saying they had fun, that he'll miss their happy days, because both can be true at once. Just as a bad person can do good things, you can hate parts of someone and still like the whole. Like he says, Takopi is inept, inexperienced, stupid, and loudmouth even. All of these things that he hates, but it culminates into something good for him. Every compliment Takopi gives is genuine because someone with all those traits couldn't be a good liar. The idiocy Naoki dislikes takes on a new dimension when the whole person and their time together is considered. All that complexity shifts it from black and white to gray. It's not stupid and loud and excitable, it's Takopi. Yes, Naoki helped cover up a murder, and that led to his family name being trashed and his mother bedridden with stress, his brother losing his job, and probably even more. But he has to say,
Looking back, even trying to save her was a horrible idea, but at least I gave it my best shot.
because faced with something we can't fix, this is what remains to us. To look at it and pull some nugget of goodness from everything else we can't change. You live with your mistakes and intentions alike in order to be complex. You find something good, move on, and build something new from that one bit you can control. You. This is what we see moving forward. Embracing that everything is a mess after this conversation is how Takopi repairs his relationship with Shizuka, who's gone mad trying to track down Chappie despite essentially knowing he's dead. Holding Takopi down and beating him, she yells,
Tell me! Tell me! Tell me what I should have done differently!
She yells it because it's true. What was she supposed to do? The world is inherently a mess with little rhyme or reason, and society is an act of working against that, of standardizing things and making solutions because of the standardization. If everyone experiences this one thing, then you can draw up a satisfactory solution. If everyone is very similar, you can better produce happiness. And so we try to keep everyone the same. We try to be planet happy. We create systems to simplify, to provide fixes. But what good does this do to someone outside of the norm? What good do police do for the child of someone with an illegal job? What good do services you have to apply for do for a child with no support or knowledge? What is anything in your life when there's no space made for it, when you need something other than the default? One size fits none, but forces most, and the rest outside of it are forced to struggle in freedom and doubt. And so Takopi finally does a good thing for Shizuka in acknowledging this, in being the first person to say,
I don't have an answer, Pete.
where he and everyone else once accidentally trivialized it all. After all, if someone swoops in and says they can fix that thing, isn't it implying one person could have, so why didn't you? Sure, it's more complicated than I'm sorry to offer a fix. It's much more effort, but it's also still nothing compared to the real complexity of the issue, so does that matter? It's still mostly just saying, there was a way, you just couldn't take it, and that's an insult. The best way to respect what she's been through isn't to jump to say, let's fix things, but to let them be for a moment. To admit that they can't be fixed so that, like Marina, she can stop justifying anything. Hearing things like this, she finally stops hitting Takopi because it states there is no solution to beat out of him. There's no idea he's holding back some magic that would work. There is nothing to fight for here. It's there, it's done, and it sucks, and all that's left to do is feel it, take something from it, and move on. So with this recognized, the two repair their friendship and spend the next few days traveling to the seaside and just hanging around feeling the finale, just existing in what they can't change. They have a rocky history and everything is messed up. Eventually she'll be found out and caught for, well, actual murder and a lot of terrible things that happened. But for right now, they can still have a few good moments in an awful time. That's the point, right? You can't control it, but you can take parts of it, moments of happiness at a time, even in a life of sadness. Just as a life of good can have sad itself. Finally not chasing what was already gone, maybe they can move on and make something better, right? If you can't fix anything, then all that you can do is build something new. Let the old ones crumble and put something new in a new place. It's kind of reflected in everything we do, isn't it? The decay of buildings as entire neighborhoods go up and down, the friendships dwindling away while time is spent with new ones who are great at building but terrible at maintaining. I don't know if we can change that fact about ourselves, because as things age, they pile in more complexity, eventually becoming too much to handle. Like a garage full of a lifetime of tools, a kitchen full of a lifetime of pots and pans and utensils. It all becomes too much to handle until eventually we throw it out overwhelmed, purge something old and make room, tear it down, move out, keep what we like, and build something new. This is what we've always been doing. If we can't help it, maybe we need to understand and embrace it. Instead of clinging to the old mess, we take a bit and embrace the new slate. And this is exactly why Takopi has to hurt Shizuka for a moment, because as good can be found in bad, bad can fester in good, and their time together leads to one last reconsideration. Chappie. Was having him truly a good thing for Shizuka? Yes, she said of him,
As long as I have Chappie, I'll be okay. He's all I need to make it through.
and that's a very sweet thing with good aspects, with genuine love, and it prevented her from doing something truly awful and final. But did she get to this point exactly from that mindset? That she didn't need to try and reach out to a teacher or fight back because Chappie's love would make it all feel okay? Would she have accepted Naoki's help sooner without something to pin every ounce of love and hope to? Every day where she came home hurt and he made her feel better, he grew more and more important, became more and more of a justification to keep it all the same, to cling forever onto one small bit of joy instead of trying to build anything new. Just like Marina's hatred lumped onto one person justified anything against that person, Shizuka's love lumped onto one person justified anything against herself, because all of that goodness was still there, even if she was hurt. Part of the reason she believes things couldn't change was because of him, because almost any change would demand they be split up. If she tries to improve her home life, she'll certainly be taken away from a neglectful mother while he stays, so in a way she actually doesn't want anything to change. She wants to stay with him, accepting 95% of things being bad so long as she gets to keep that 5% that's good. And this is what Takopi is becoming when they reconnect and Chappie is gone, the next eternal comfort as they spend all day and night together wandering. So long as he's there, she feels no need for anything else, anything better. And so he uses his recalled memories to make a permanent decision. If he gives up his happy powers, he can make the camera work one last time and return to a moment before anything went majorly wrong. It's a process he starts before telling Shizuka, meaning once he tries to stop, it's too late. He'll be gone and she's left there screaming, pleading, in such an intense moment of pain, but for a good reason, and forgotten the second the gadget takes effect. Good drawn from bad, where now she's free to try to have another try at building something new. And it happens. The faint memories of Takopi that exist in both Shizuka and Marina manage to bring them together, as the latter sees a doodle of him in the former's notebook and they connect over it, each making up the same character in their heads to fit the drawing. They each experience different versions of loneliness, lives they thought meant no one else could understand them, but here they find something from inside them, never expressed, that the other just gets somehow, suddenly sharing in something endlessly unique. In a way, their loneliness became what they could share, that despite how differently they've got there, the feeling was similar, and difference becomes similarity as their conflict ceases in newfound depth. After all, if this is the same, what else is? You can't justify hating that person so easily anymore. From the first question, the original sin, complexity springs forth. They become lasting friends into their teenage years, and it doesn't fix their lives, not even close actually. Both still had the same issues as before. But this time they've built something new outside of it in their friendship, a support to drive them forward in new directions rather than cling to what they always knew. Together they provide a little escape, a moment away, a time where they don't have to consider if they're happy, they just are. And that might be the only thing we can say happiness is, a state of not thinking about happiness. The second you have a doubt and it appears, it ceases to be. It's a state which one only exists within when they have no reason to consider it. It's endlessly unique and unknowable because even the person experiencing it doesn't know the depth of their complexity, the void of gray. A lot of terrible things come from this, the sin of knowledge and uniqueness and everything required to be able to be us. We can never change them. We can never fix their consequences. But it's also why we can have these kinds of discussions, why we can love and be happy with depth instead of living as childish cartoons. It doesn't make it better, but there is some good to be found in all of the bad. So thank you for letting me take part in that with you today. And I hope you'll let me do so again sometime soon.